folks, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be discussing about the damage produced by ROS as well as its clinical significance. Damage produced by reactive oxygen species. So free radicals are extremely reactive. The mean effective radius of action is only 30 angstrom. Their half-life is only a few milliseconds. One of the main characteristic features of the free radicals is that when a free radical it reacts with a normal compound, other free radicals are generated. That is, there's a chain reaction which is taking place. And this leads to the propagation phase, which will be discussed later. So let's now see the effect of free radicals starting from the cell membrane. Peroxidation of PUFA, that is a polyunsaturated fatty acids in plasma membrane, leads to loss of membrane function. Lipid peroxidation and consequent degradation products such as malondialdehyde are seen in biological fluids. So the presence of malondialdehyde in the biological fluid act as a marker for the increased production of free radicals and disruption of cell membrane. So what you have to understand now is when there is the degradation of the cell membrane. So when there is a disruption of the cell membrane, what you have to understand is all the contents within the cell membrane, that is the total cell itself, undergoes degradation one by one. To sum up, these are the damages caused by reactive oxygen species. So the first main thing is the lipid peroxidation membrane damage. That means there will be damage to the lipid which is present in the membrane, and you know the membrane consists of major percentage of lipids. Then once there is damage to the lipids present in the membrane, there will be DNA damage, cell death, mutation, and after all this as a result cancer. And also there will be protein damage, loss of function, and mitochondrial permeability transition. And this, if there is change in the mitochondrial permeability, that can lead to apoptosis or cell death. So now let's discuss the clinical significance. So the first one is chronic inflammation. So here in the chronic inflammation, chronic inflammatory diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis are self-perpetuated by the free radicals released by neutrophils. So in this condition, the neutrophils release free radicals which itself disturbs the constant condition of the body. And also there are other induced tissue damages which appear to be involved in pathogenesis of chronic ulcerative colitis, chronic glomerulonephritis, etc. Now acute inflammation. So at the inflammatory site, activated macrophages produce free radicals. Respiratory burst and increased activity of NADPH oxidase are seen in macrophages and neutrophils, and these act as a basis for defense of the body. Respiratory diseases. So breathing of 100% oxygen for more than 24 hours produces destruction of endothelium and lung edema. This is due to the release of free radicals by activated neutrophils. So here I would like to explain one more thing that we have seen in a previous video, that in the case of respiratory burst, that is when there is pathogenesis, there will be increased consumption of oxygen, and all these oxygen molecules would be finally converted to the superoxide anion radical, and also this will be further converted to hydrogen peroxide and finally converted to the hypochlorous acid. And all these are reactive species, and they can produce destruction not only to the pathogens which enter the body, but as well as, if they are present in increased quantities, even to the endothelium and cells that are present in the body itself. The cigarette smoke also contains free radicals as such, and the soot attracts neutrophils to the site which releases more radicals, leading to lung damage. Now diseases of the eye, retrolental fibroplasia or the retinopathy of prematurity is a condition seen in premature infants treated with pure oxygen for a long time. It is caused by free radicals causing thromboxane release, sustained vascular contracture, and cellular injury. Cataract formation is related with aging process. Cataract is partially due to photochemical generation of free radicals. Tissue of the eye, including the lens, have high concentration of free radical scavenging enzymes. So in the case of cataract, you know that the light, it has the ability to split the oxygen molecules to singlet oxygen. So here, due to the partial photochemical generation of free radicals take place in the case of cataract. So the retrolental fibroplasia, that is a retrolental fibroplasia, it is due to the abnormal proliferation of fibrous tissue immediately behind the lens of the eye, leading to blindness. It affected many premature babies in the 1950s owing to the excessive administration of oxygen. The next one is a reperfusion injury. So in the reperfusion injury, after myocardial ischemia, it is caused by free radicals. During ischemia, the activity of xanthine oxidase is increased. When reperfused, this causes conversion of hypoxanthine to xanthine and superoxide anion. At the same time, the availability of scavenging enzymes is decreased, leading to aggravation of myocardial injury. Allopurinol, a xanthine oxidase inhibitor, reduces the severity of reperfusion injury. So here, usually with the energy that is obtained in the form of ATP, the hypoxanthine is converted to xanthine in the presence of the enzyme xanthine oxidase. And for this conversion to take place, the oxygen molecules are converted to superoxide anion radical. And this further by the processes that I mentioned in the previous video are converted to hydrogen peroxide, and this, if it is present in larger quantities, may be converted to OH superscript dot, that is the hydroxyl ions of free radicals in the presence of ferric ions, that is a Fenton reaction. And this takes place when there is a reperfusion, that is the blood flow is regained after myocardial ischemia. There will be increased xanthine oxidase activity and more amount of superoxide anion free radicals are formed, and this leads to the further increased production of hydrogen peroxide. One of the things which have to be noted is that during this period there will be decrease in the amount of the scavenging enzymes that is supposed to convert the hydrogen peroxide back to water, such as glutathione peroxidase or catalase. The next clinical significance is atherosclerosis and myocardial infarction. Both of this takes place due to the LDL particles which are deposited in the endothelial cells, which are modified LDL particles because they may undergo oxidation by free radicals, and this will be attracting macrophages which will be phagocytosing or engulfing these LDL particles, and this macrophages will be converted to the form cells, and this initiates the atherosclerotic plate formation. Now, shock related injury. Release of free radicals from phagocytes damages membranes by lipid peroxidation. They release leukotrienes from platelets and proteases from macrophages. All these factors cause increased vascular permeability, resulting in tissue edema. Antioxidants have a protective effect. One of the major use of the free radical is in its treatment of skin diseases. So certain plant products such as psoralens are administered in the treatment of psoriasis and leukoderma. So when the drug is applied over the affected skin and then irradiated by UV light, singlet oxygen is produced with clinical benefit. As we have already mentioned, this UV light at the required wavelength may convert the oxygen molecules to singlet oxygen. The next one is carcinogenesis and treatment. So when there is an increased amount of free radicals in circulation or in the body, this leads to DNA damage, and that may lead to, and all these DNA damages may accumulate and lead to somatic mutations and malignancy. And this cancerous condition, the treatment is using radiotherapy, but radiotherapy or the irradiation, it produces further more reactive oxygen species in the cell, which triggers the cell death. Aging process. So reactive oxygen metabolites play a pivotal role in the degenerative brain disorders such as Parkinsonism, Alzheimer's dementia, and multiple sclerosis. This is a diagrammatic representation of the free radical toxicity, or what the free radical does when they are present in increased quantities in the body. So it can cause diabetic retinopathy of maturity, cataracts, bronchial asthma, arrhythmia, kidney failure, age spots wrinkle, aging, diabetes, allergy, rheumatic disease, cancer, and so on.